Hello, my name is Gijsbert van der Steen and I'm the founder of Discovered. And I can still really clearly remember the day that Discovered started. It was my then 10-year-old daughter, Lisanne, who came into the room and she was crying because elephants were being killed for ivory. And I tried to give her an inspirational speech that anybody could be the change if they wanted to see the change. And at the end of that talk, she looked at me and said, "Dad, I'm only 10 years old. What are you going to do to make the world better?" And I think that's probably the toughest question that I had to face in my life. And I've been working in online since 1997. And I've started 2 internet companies over the past 20 years. So I thought, what can I do with my experience to make change and make the world a little bit better? And then at some point, the idea for Discovered walked in. And I think the best way to introduce you to Discovered is to tell you the story about Maranika. I'd been traveling some across the world in a lot of emerging countries, and everywhere we went, we always saw people crafting beautiful products, trying to make a better living. And Maranika is no exception to that. At some point, she found that she wanted to create additional income for her family, and she loved painting traditional teapots, so she started her own crafts business. But in order to grow that business, she needed to access additional buyer markets when she couldn't find enough buyers in her local market. But she didn't have the skills or experience to do that. And when she relied on middlemen to access additional markets, she was left with very little of the final price, often as little as 5 to 15%. And in order to start and grow her business, she needed some funding. But local funds were very difficult to attain for her. The process was lengthy and the interest rates were high. And Maranika isn't the only one. There's an estimated 1 billion people around the globe in emerging countries who use crafts to better their lives and start their business, but they're still living off less than $10 a day. In order to grow their business, they need access to customers, but they often lack the knowledge, expertise, or the skills to make that happen. And as I said, when they rely on middlemen, they're left with very little of the proceeds. While they're growing, their growth is limited because they cannot access the funds they need to invest in their business. Currently, there are no scalable initiatives across countries who offer creative crafters or artisans the local support that they need to easily connect directly without any middlemen to global buyers or have access to the funds that they need to grow their business. And that is a huge problem. But a huge problem also has a huge opportunity, because internet and online has the opportunity to scale and change the way that artisans access buyer markets on a local and international level. The export market for arts and crafts is growing and is estimated at 58 billion in 2015 and growth around 10% annually, because Western consumers are interested in traditional products to enhance their lifestyles. So developing small artisan enterprises will drive income generation and employment for the artisans themselves and the people they employ and their families. By better integrating those artisans into global commerce, we will increase the incomes and the standard of living of those artisans and families. And if we can scale that and boost artisan enterprise development, we can make an impact on the transformation of the economic landscape of a country as a whole. But the current support organizations are small, they work independently of each other, and they're not well funded or recognized as a partner in this to support this across countries at a global scale. And that is why we started Discovered. And Discovered can make a difference because we approach this challenge in a different way from others. We understand that we need to provide the creative artisans in emerging countries access to the tools that they specifically need tailored to their local situations. So we need to offer, and we do offer them, local skills training. That can be on internet access, it can be on business development, or it can be about product development, any local skills that they need to grow their business we're offering. By offering them a single point of market access, we provide them access to local buyer markets, but also international buyer markets, both online and offline, making it easy for them to manage their products and inventories across additional channels, which is particularly important while artisan enterprises are growing. Because we have the single point of contact, we have insights in their revenue across all of those channels. And based on smart data insights on their revenues, but also on the buyer markets, we can avoid currency risks and costly approval processes and help them with easy access to affordable loans. In order to be able to execute that, we need to balance in 3 key areas. First of all, local activation of artisans is the starting factor. Once we have that, we need to activate buyer markets and customers hand in hand on the other side, because we need to be able to sell the products that the artisans list through Discovered. And that means that we need to have the organization, supporting organization and platform in place in order to be able to execute. So the first step that we did is understanding that local activation was really important. We set up a local team in artisan regions where they have access to reliable international shipping. So we start in the easy accessible spots. We did that in India to find out how that works and if it could work in other countries as well. We did find, by doing that in 3 other countries, Mexico, Morocco, and Kenya, that this approach can work across countries and is scalable as well. Since we received additional funding, we have started in India to replicate this model and see if we can grow it to cover the country. The results from Renika, since she joined us a little over 2 years ago, was that she was able to sell over 300 products since joining Discovered. And she created an additional $10,000 in revenue, averaging about $20 above local prices. By enabling her to grow, she was able to hire additional people into her craft shop, and she chose to hire underprivileged women from local communities. When she grew, she wanted to open up a shop in the heart of Jaipur to have better access to local buyer markets. So she approached us to get that loan. If we would have been able to provide that, it would have been relatively easy. But now she had to rely on a local supplier, making her pay 30% interest. First, we opened up online channels for Renika, and now we are running a pilot in the Netherlands by adding retail partners to the platform. And the first 3 agreements for her teapots are in. So we see that that addition to our model works. She's not the only one who's joined Discovered. We have over 200 artisan shops on Discovered. We reach over 800 artisans through those shops and around 3,500 family members. While simultaneously activating over 4,000 buyers, we have generated more than $230,000 in revenues for these shops and have created around 150,000 annual repeating income, because we see that customers stay, invite other customers and repeat order. Since we launched in March, we see that we grow by an average of 30% month over month, which is a fairly good growth rate, and it will bring us to an average annual revenue of $500,000 by the end of the year, and that's a continuous revenue. Our ambition is to increase the average income for each shop on Discovered by $1,000, meaning 25% of annual income for artisans selling through Discovered. Based on the pilot that we have done in India, we have been able to increase the annual revenue for the India shops that we have been able to list. So we see that this business model actually works. And as I said, we have tested it in 3 other countries and have had similar results. We find that the hub approach is essential to work with the artisans to assure the product quality and also the impact measurement, so deliver on the promise that we make. We have started our first 2 hubs in India this year with promising results. Our business model is fairly simple. We receive a fee on all orders and have a mixed fee on services, for example, product development, shipping, or the loaning model, which is an addition. We know that an individual hub can support 400 shops, both in terms of activating the artisans, but also in terms of activating the customers. And we know what the exact investment in a hub is in order to run that. We have calculated that we will become profitable as a business if we can open up 15 hubs, and we expect that our profitability will increase while the cost of activation of both the artisans and the customers will decline. So we're well positioned to grow, and we aim to do that by owning unique for thoughtful customers, driving down the customer acquisition costs while increasing the customer lifetime value of those customers through the online and offline channels. Currently, 75% of our orders come through online channels and 25% through retail partners. And based on the pilots that we do this year, we are aiming to see if that percentage can and should increase. The hub approach is the basis of everything we do. So we want to open up 15 hubs in 5 countries, activating 6,000 shops and generating around 6 million artisan income across those countries. It also means that we will create 60 local jobs for people working for Discovered as such. How are we funding this? We are finalizing a round of 1.4 million euros. We have received 400,000 in a convertible loan, 200,000 in grant funding, and have a commitment to double additional equity investments in Discovered, meaning we only need an additional investment of 400,000 to make this work. We have a great team in place to execute, our own local team in Holland, with a co-founder, Enview, who is very good in creating social impact companies. And we have several social impact investors, including Ms. Brigitte Moon of the Bertelsmann Foundation. So we invite you and investors to join us if you believe, just like us, that business can be used as a force for good. Then help us and join our mission to empower creative artisans in emerging countries to better their incomes by creating better businesses and flexible jobs. Thanks.